Hi, everybody. We're going to talk today about the concept of gender in Latin. This goes along with Stage 18 in the Cambridge Latin course, and I want you to reconsider what you think of as gender here. And in fact, I've titled the top of my Microsoft Word document here as grammatical gender because this is different than what we might think of, what you might think of as gender. So I don't know about you, but I think most of us, the idea of gender is what gender does a person identify with? Does a person identify as male, or does a person identify as female, or does a person identify as maybe both or non-gendered? And then you've got and notice we're talking about people, right? And then you've got everything else in the world, a book, a desk, a car, and those are all things. Of course, the exception to that is sometimes, someone who really loves their car or really loves their boat might call it a she, that kind of thing. And that's what gender is to us. Okay, now that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about grammatical gender. Okay, and let me illustrate what I mean here. If you guys look at my Microsoft Word document, you can see in Latin we know that we really have five declensions, don't we? But we're not going to worry about the fourth and the fifth declension because there's so few. There's just not that many words there in those two. So we're going to limit it to the first and the second and the third declension. And when we think about gender, we think about feminine. It makes sense that Metella and girl and daughter would be feminine. It makes sense that Quintus and friend here, Mikos, cook would be masculine. Puer, boy, weir, man would be masculine because those are sort of like, I think, typically uh, masculine ideas. Um, so, if I were to take these words and move them down here into my categories, I might put Metella and Puella and Philia down here. I might put Quintus and Amicus and Coquus down here. Oh, wait, no, I've switched them. Let's try that again. So here, Metella and Puella and Philia goes in the feminine, and then Quintus, Amicus, and Coquus in the masculine. And then, kind of everything else, right? A gate, a statue, a house, a window would go in the neuter. Let's go ahead and, take a look, do that, right? And then ring, garden would maybe be everything else, right? Puer weir, okay, think of that maybe as male. Ager, donum, bacterium as a thing. So let's put those maybe down there. And then here we got Clemens, Rex, Mercator, thinking, okay, male. Mater, okay, thinking feminine. Pater, thinking masculine. And then I'm thinking boat, lion, sea, name. Those are all kind of things. Now, maybe, what about lion? You know, lion, male, female, maybe, I don't know, maybe male. Okay, so here's the deal. This is completely wrong. So we're going to back up. We're going to back up. We're going to go back and put everything back in its place because grammatical gender is not the same. Okay, so here we go. Here's the deal. In Latin, we have some grammatical gender rules. All right, now there's always the exception to the rules. We're not going to worry about the exceptions. Here are the rules. In Latin, first declension nouns are feminine. Okay, and that's really nice. They end in a, so they're feminine. Okay, now again, there's always exceptions, but this is the rule. And notice, even though it doesn't matter what they mean, right? We have something as straightforward as Metella or girl or daughter, but we also have gate, statue, house, window. And I know in the English speaking world we might think of those as things, but grammatically their gender is feminine. All right. Let's go over here. Here's another rule for you. Okay, if you've got a second declension noun that ends in us, it is masculine. Quintus, amicus, coquus. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. Annulus, ring, garden. But again, if it ends in us, it's masculine. If it's a second declension noun that ends in us, it is masculine. All right, now we also have some second declension nouns that end in R. And most of these nouns are masculine. And, boy, man, okay, that makes sense, right? Ager field, again, we might think of a field as a thing, but it's an R noun from the second declension, so it's masculine. Now, here's another rule. If it ends in and it's a second declension noun, it is neuter. We'll talk about neuter later. Now, let's go to the third declension. Now, here's the issue. Third declension's tough because look at all the endings. We got NS, we got X, R, IS, O, and then E, and then an N. So there's really there are a ton of different patterns for the third declension. And so we can't really give you a specific rule about each of these patterns is whatever gender. So the bottom line is you just have to get used to these third declension nouns, and this is why the M or the F or the N is given to you in the glossary on the vocab checklist, so you can check the gender of the noun. Okay, now it makes sense that Clemens would be masculine, King would be masculine, Mercator would be masculine. Admit that makes sense. All right. Makes sense that pater would be masculine. So you can see there is some overlap between grammatical gender, or what we think of as like gender, like sexuality gender. And so mater makes sense that mater would be feminine. And I do want you to notice, right? Pater, mater, look at that same ending, but different genders, right? Now, look at these. A boat, a lion, a sea, and name. Okay, now I know these genders because I know them because I've memorized them. Nawis is feminine. It just is. Leo, lion, is masculine. Mare and nomen happen to be neuter. And again, I know that because I memorized it. Okay, so there's a little bit of a memorization issue here, but the biggest thing I want you to note is that when you look at these here, when you look at all of these words, let me get rid of these guys too. When you look at all these words, it has to do with the kind of noun it is, what declension it is, what it ends with, not necessarily what it means. Okay? So masculine, feminine, and neuter grammatical gender is the topic for stage 18.